Greetings Peanutians and welcome to my Hexa Stat explanation video. In this video I will be covering what Hexa Stat is, its mechanics, and the logic behind when and how to build your Hexa Stat presets and the finer details that come with this. If you're by chance looking for a video on Hexa skills, please refer to the video link either in the description or the top corner of this video. Also, if there are any parts of the Hexa Stats system that I neglected to cover, please let me know and I will update the description and the pinned comment with the information. To cover some general information for Hexa Stats, the Hexa Stat system consists of 3 slots, one of which is the main stat and the remaining 2 slots are the additional stats. There are a total of 6 stat nodes, each of which have the following rules. Each of the stat nodes cannot have the same main stat repeating more than once. Each of the additional stats can only have the additional stats repeat a total of twice throughout the 6 stat nodes. Also, I'll be referring to stat nodes as presets from here on out, as presets are a more accurate name for them, as that is the literal function of these stat nodes. Each preset has a max rank or level of 20, and that max rank being a total of each of the 3 slots preset, adding up to a total of 20, with each of the slots having a total rank or level of 10. In each preset, while you're leveling up the presets, only one of the 3 slots will rank up, with the main stat having a lower chance to rank up compared to the additional slots. And the last bit of information is the fact that the main stats values have a higher value compared to the additional stats. And with the important information covered, now for some specifics. To get started, we'll be covering what Hexa Stats there are. For the main stat and the 2 additional stats, you can pick to slot in either crit damage, boss damage, IED, damage, attack, and your class's primary stat value. As mentioned earlier, with Hexa Stats, there are a total of 6 presets, the remaining 5 not having been released yet as of this video. And in each preset, you have both an active stat and a save stat. This function is essentially as the name implies. Once you've leveled up the preset to level 20, and it's the one that you want to keep and no longer reset to try and get better leveled up lines, you can then save it. And if you do plan to reset this preset, assuming the other presets haven't released by then, you can always revert back to the save stat if you feel like you changed your mind and wish to go back to that one, assuming you haven't accidentally or purposely reset over it or saved over it. The last 2 functions in the Hexa Stat system are resetting and changing your preset stat slots. Resetting a preset is essentially just that. This option is also available at rank 10, and resetting your preset will revert all 3 of your stats you selected to drop back down to level 0. As for changing your preset stat slots, this means being able to change the main stat and the 2 additional stats you have selected. For example, pretending that all 6 presets are unlocked, and assuming your main stat is a high level or maxed out, and the remaining 2 levels in the 2 additional stats are high and low in the wrong stats in terms of priority or importance, you can actually swap out the 2 additional stats between each other to the desired configuration without having to reset the levels or reverting to your save stat slot in that preset. Thankfully, for both resetting and changing of your presets and their save slots, they do not cost any Soul Erdas or Soul Erda fragments. They are instead going to cost you some mezzos that are not too expensive of an amount. Now to cover an important topic that I feel most will ask, and that is when to start your Hexa Stats. Despite all of the infographics and progression charts for Hexa skills, Hexa Stats don't really have anything like that and are strictly based off of your class and your current gear build. To put it simply, you can start whenever that is best for you and pick whatever you want or will need based off of what your class is lacking. The only thing I can tell you in terms of when to do things in regards for Hexa Stats is when to reset your Hexa Stats based off of your target goal for your main stat. The following information was pulled from a website that I will link in the description, so be sure to use a browser or a translation function as this is not primarily English. And to avoid any rambling, I will simply cover one target level area. If you're aiming for your main stat to be level 6, this information on this page is essentially telling you if that you're at level 2 on your main stat by the time your overall Hexa Stat level has hit level 10, then it's potentially better for you to reset your Hexa Stat to retry. And this is essentially true for the other target levels as well. Once again, the link to this page will be in the description. And as I mentioned previously, it all depends on what your class is and or your current gear. And to help paint a better picture, I'll be providing my own characters as a reference to help paint a picture on what decisions one would make. As you can see from my main character, I have plenty of boss damage and more than enough IED, which pretty much means I can leave those 2 stats values alone. And to also provide some context on class specifics, Aran already has a lot of non-visual IED from active attack skills and hypers, which removes the need for any more IED to begin with, even if I was to be around 94% IED, though as Aran's need to be more around 95, but that's besides the point. The point is that in my case, IED would be not a priority for my Hexa Stat. With what was mentioned, that pretty much leaves attack, primary stat, crit damage as the stats that I will most likely pick for myself. As for where they'll be slotted, as you can see from the chart, and in addition to the fact that attack values scale with percent attack lines, I would slot attack into my main stat line, therefore leaving both stat and crit damage to be left for the additional slots. For another example, I will be using my Kanna as an example. Looking at the boss damage first, it is quite low for a character that is already soloing Hard Domain and Hard Lucid, so that could be a candidate for my Hexa Stat. In addition, you can also see that my ID is really low, but that's because I don't have my ID buffs active, so take that into account. Once again, referring back to the stat value charts, even if we put ID into the main stat, we can only potentially get 20% ID if we max it out at level 10, which is very hard to do in that preset. So with that taken into consideration, ID would be potentially what I would want to slot into main stat, or with the considerations of ID buffs and potions, I may want to put into additional stats lines instead of the main stat line. And for a third and final example, I will be using my Kaiser bossing mule as the last example. As you can see from my ID on this character is already so high, that makes ID very unlikely to be a choice for me, which leaves crit damage, boss damage, attack, or primary stat. With my boss damage being fairly low, boss damage will therefore be a choice. But if I pop guild skills and other buffs, that could potentially fix that issue of my lack of boss damage, therefore only leaving attack, crit damage, and primary stat being the primary candidates that I would choose from. Also take note that even if I wasn't fully buffed and that these stats were what I had, there is always the future option of having other configurations of stats and other presets once further presets are made available in future patches in order to allow better flexibility. With all the examples I provided, that ultimately leaves up to the question of which slot which stat will fall into. Based off of what values are available, if they were either placed in the main stat line or the additional stat line, we can see that because attack is scaled off of percent attack lines and that primary stat is not scaled or affected by percent stat lines, attack would therefore be more than likely and usually put into the main stat line to be more beneficial from that. And to conclude this video, the last thing I want to cover and to let you all know is this very important fact. In the end, technically speaking, if you cannot figure out what your configuration is, you can literally always put whatever you feel would be currently best at the time being, and then just focus on leveling the slots in those presets, because you can literally change out which of the 6 stats that are used, and therefore pretty much only focus on getting your main stat line leveled up as high as you can, and do whatever you feel that is best for your additional stat lines to be leveled as well. So ideally, personally speaking, I will go for a level of 8 through 10 for my main stat, and have as much of an even split of the additional stats as I can, or depending on how much I need, I may favor additional slot line 1 versus 2 to have a higher level. But once again, it all depends on what you are working on and what you have available. And just to reiterate this one last time, when to do and how to do Hexa Stat is solely based off of your criteria, based off of your farming, your skills, your class, and what you're wearing in terms of your gear. It is going to be solely dependent on you. And if you are still struggling to figure out how to do or when to do Hexa Stats, you are more than welcome to ask me for assistance. I will at the very least ask for your class, your current gear build, your boss damage, your IED, as well as how often you plan on farming. And as I've said, I will try to help everybody as much as I can, but after a certain point after this video is released, I will no longer be answering questions, and I will have everyone refer to other comments I've referred to. Hi guys, Peanut here again. I hope you all found this video helpful in understanding and in helping you all make the best decisions for your own Hexa Stat build. And also, please consider liking the video, commenting, and subscribing to my channel, as this will greatly help me in my channel's growth and better extend my opportunities to grow as well. And with that being said, thanks for all the support, thanks for watching, and I hope to all see you in the next video. Bye!